Welcome to Breaking Barriers. You know your path. We know the obstacles, and we can teach you how to tear them down. And now your host, CEO and founder of Adapting Social, John Vigero.
Guys, welcome back to Breaking Barriers. I'm excited. We had my man Flew out here for this. We're ready to get after right now. We got Tony Burrows, Green Source here right now.
Yes, sir.
Dude, I'm honored to have you here.
Thank you.
I
Thanks
appreciate
for
it.
having me.
For the people out here that are like, who the fuck is Tony Burrows, right? Can you give us a little high level?
Just a regular guy, entrepreneur. Take on a little heavier load than the average Joe, I think, which makes me step outside that average entrepreneur box. 5 LLCs in Florida. And
wow.
One of them, my newest project, is what made me get into your world, and I'm excited to be in there.
Yeah, man. I'm amped up. And so talk about Green Source real quick.
Green Source is a medical marijuana clinic in Florida. We basically do certifications, state certifications for any patient or potential patient that wants to qualify with one of the 9 qualifying conditions for medical marijuana.
Right.
So we started last month. We have our grand opening on the 3rd of September this year.
Let's go.
Yep, first location, and the goal is to build a brand, a community, educate and entertain our community, and just keep everything flowing throughout the year, scale, replicate, and be that brand for Florida. I want to be that office.
What I love about what you're doing, though, is I know so many good people that have gotten arrested or whatever for smoking marijuana or being whatever, and some of them have actual medical conditions, and it just helps them. Buddies of mine, right, over the years. And the fact that obviously you're giving them a way to legitimize it, so that nobody has to be worried about whatever they need to do to medicate is amazing.
It is. I think the country, the states, let's start with just the states. What's the medical laws here in Jersey?
So it's legalized.
It's fully legal recreation?
Yep.
Lucky you.
Yeah. Which I couldn't believe when it did, but now it's fully recreational.
That's crazy. Was it medical first?
Medical first. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because the last time I was here in Jersey, I was looking, and it was kind of crazy loopholes that they were making. It wasn't simple to get a medical card, is what I heard.
No, it wasn't. And I, one of my buddies did get it, and I believe he got it for anxiety. And he said it was almost like going to get a new passport. Like it was like the most insane, like changing your name or something. Like the most insane process. But yeah, now they changed it.
Yeah, it's crazy what they make us go through just to take a plant. It's
a plant.
Yeah. Over the years, I guess marijuana on the whole cannabis plant, the whole brand, the whole image has been so targeted and tarnished.
Right.
Since the early 30s, 40s, 50s, like they ran heavy ad campaigns. Usually people in our generation or even our parents' generation, either they have a good experience where they tried it out and it's just been, okay, it's pot, or they have been traumatized from their parents, which is that era that was exposed to that propaganda, I like to call it, cannabis propaganda.
Right.
So in states like myself, southern states, which tend to be more conservative, and we're still 2 generations behind as far as forward thinking.
Right.
We still have to deal with a lot of stigmas. We still have to deal with a lot of, I don't feel good going around my grandma and talking about pot. It's like one of those taboo things.
Right.
And I think that's so crazy in a time that opioids is basically taken over. Our grandparents has been okay with letting the doctors write prescriptions for every pill in the book, and we have minimal conversations about side effects, long-term effects, but yet we accept that as a form of medication.
Right.
So to me, my viewpoint of the whole medical scene is just weird that you can legally take something that will probably kill you, not if. If you read a label, it will say that it might act like it will kill you. If you take enough of it, it'll kill you.
Right.
There's no death sentence in pot. There's nothing. There's no form, no nothing in medical marijuana. You can't get too high. You might sleep an extra hour. You may miss work. You may eat a little more out of the fridge.
Right.
But, as far as the benefits versus the side effects, it's no conversation.
And honestly, I agree with that. and listen, this is me being somebody, I invested in a liquor company, that I have in Commodity. And, when I look at, just the again, when I've been drunk versus when I've, smoked weed or whatever, or marijuana, it's totally different. So I agree with you. It's like, it's such a hard thing for, I think, most people to wrap their head around why it's so much red tape still
Definitely.
with a plant. I want to talk about you for a second though. So let's talk about the entrepreneur bug for you, right? So you mentioned before we started filming that you were in the music industry, still are, right? Entertainment space. And so was that your first really entrepreneur venture, or was there something you were doing before that when you were younger? Like, what do you think gave you that itch where you were like, boom, like I need to do this, I need to get out there. I don't want to be working, somewhere. I want to go start my own thing and do what I got to do. Like, what was that thing for you?
All right, so I was raised in the Bahamas most of my youth in Nassau.
Yep.
Growing up, my dad had a automobile paint. Basically, it's a store like if you wreck your car, you need to fix it. Either you or the body man would have to come to us and buy the paint and the bundle and all the stuff. It's like old school stuff.
Yeah.
Real island stuff. But it was a job that I had since I could remember to, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it was always that job. My dad got sick and the business almost went away.
Oh, wow.
When he got sick, I came back to the States in college, and my older brother kind of, hit me up. This is when I first started DJing. He's like, man, Dad's not doing anything with the company. He's going to go under. Let's try. Like, both of us were basically raised in the shop.
Yeah,
I was about 18.
Okay.
I graduated high school at 16.
Oh, okay.
So I was about 18 when me and my brother moved back to the islands, and we took over basically the paint store.
Business.
In our first year or two of just learning and, trying to replicate what Dad would be kind of saw. But my brother's 8 years older than me. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
So he definitely had, college education. He had experience in business.
Right.
But being in the Bahamas, it's a completely different ball game. It's not what you got to sell. It's who you know. It's how you sell it. It's that kind of stuff. So we were able to kind of find a loophole and bringing in raw materials instead of just buying packaged paint products. We brought in big barrels of stuff, started packaging ourselves, and it was a game changer.
Wow.
Probably made my first 6 digits at 20.
Wow.
And that was what sparked it. Like,
dang.
Okay. It was 20, paying about 11 employees, and
Wow.
it was a lot.
Wow.
Keep in mind that I didn't have much guidance.
Right.
And as most, I could say, I'm not sure, but as some young entrepreneurs can say, it's hard to kind of squander opportunities.
Of course.
When you're at that age.
Right. And so that's really cool, man. So also, I'm sure obviously you and your brother will never forget that experience coming in, family business, keeping the legacy going. And so obviously that was your first bite, right? I guess at like, wow, I could, so whatever you did, the loopholes you found, like, okay, I can apply myself and, and not only make more money, but also, find ways to continue to build this, thing, that was my family's business.
Yes.
And then boom, so now you're back in the States, at this point. So did you go right back into music when you got back?
Yes, when I came back to the islands, when I came back from the islands, I left in 2011, but at that point I was, one of the more popular entertainers on like a regular DJ scene.
Oh, wow.
Same thing as we thought of the business. What that first company taught me was look for niches in a market. You don't have to look for a complete niche market, but just look for niches in the market.
Right.
Which was, we were the only person selling a, made in Bahamas, a Bahamian brand, which was literally just repackaged. But it had our label, it had the Bahamas flag, and people loved it. That's all they want,
Right.
That's what I learned. So in the entertainment world, instead of just being a good DJ, I wanted to be a special DJ. I started focusing more on higher end clients, and I realized, like, my experience of living in the States, like I did high school, some high school over here, I was exposed to more music than the average island DJ. So if I would have a party for Americans, I'd basically just relate with whoever's in the crowd.
Right.
That started working. I got TV shows, Below Deck.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, we did it. I've DJed for LeBron. Michael
sick.
Jordan's niece, Dwayne Wade.
Wow.
But a lot of people out there in the islands, and everybody was always like, man, you should come over here. Like, but it's like a million of me over there. There's only one of me here in the Bahamas, man. You should come back.
Yeah.
And then, as I got older, he had my son, my first kid, and I seriously considered, like, okay, wait, let's think about this. Come to the States, the opportunity, the market is bigger.
Right.
And I took on that challenge.
That's really cool, man. So out of all the different celebrities or famous people you've met and played for, who's your favorite?
Garth Brooks.
Really?
Garth Brooks.
Friends in No Places?
Garth Brooks.
Really?
I didn't even
So
know
why?
who he was.
Yeah.
I had no knowledge of who this person was.
Yeah.
He was just a barefoot old guy driving around in a golf cart on the island that I was at, and smoking pot.
Oh, wow. Just living his best life.
Just like that. And, he came to a little bar that I was DJing and asked me to DJ on his boat. And I'm looking like, oh, your boat? You got a boat?
Yeah.
We went back and we went through all the security and he had a boat.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to call that a boat.
Yacht.
Super yacht.
Wow.
And that was his thing. He came to like the little island in the Bahamas once every year for like 3 weeks, stayed on his boat.
Wow.
He just has little parties here and there, but
Dude, that's amazing.
bro, it was a blast. I don't think I can go into all the details of what we
Yeah.
did on the boat, but
But that's really cool, man. Funny enough, actually, speaking of Garth Brooks, so every Wednesday, me and my buddies, we go out, we call it a broat night. So it's on my boat. We'll all go out, we go dockside, all these different bars to hear bands and DJs.
Nice.
And this past weekend, this past Wednesday, we just did Friends in Low Places on karaoke.
Oh, I was about to, well, that's one of my karaoke go-tos.
It's a good one, man.
I always catch people off guard when they hear like, is he singing?
It's too good.
Yeah.
But I love that, man. So I did not expect that. So now diving a little bit deeper. So, a lot of people, one of the things that stood out, so like we have people who, essentially comment in and ask some questions for our guests. One of the things that was asked, obviously, for us that we always, this is more of a general one we always get asked, but it's being an entrepreneur and having kids, right? Which is difficult for most entrepreneurs, especially like when you have a lot going on, right? If you don't have the right support system at home or people around, how do you operate it for you? How does it go? How does it work with you and your wife?
That is a great question, and it's something that most entrepreneurs, depending on how much you got going on, may overlook and can cost you. It can cost you a lot.
So hold on, I'm going to reframe this question. So what advice would you have, given, obviously you have 2 beautiful kids, so what advice would you give to somebody who, is going to be a parent, right, that is an entrepreneur, based off of your perspective and what you've been through and learned and all
You
that
have to
stuff?
figure out a system of balance, balancing your time. Time is more important with a family,
Right,
just as money is more important with a business.
right.
My balance was, like I said, kind of from the islands. My wife is from the islands as well, from
Oh,
the Bahamas.
cool. Very cool. Same Nassau?
Same Nassau, even though we met in college here.
No way.
In Ohio.
That's fucking awesome.
But yeah, when she came over, she was pregnant with my son. I'm a U.S. citizen. I applied for her to get her status. For the first year or so, she couldn't work, and my wife's has 2 bachelors. She's like a senior officer at Robin Hood right now.
Oh, wow.
So shouts out to my wife.
Robin Hood, yeah, shout outs to Miss Burrows.
Yep. And so she couldn't work, and I had my son, and I was trying to start one business, doing the entertainment thing,
Right.
and still being out late at nights, tired, trying to. I realized real quick that even though my son was a baby, like he didn't understand the time that I was missing, but I felt it. Like I was like, I want to go home. I want to,
Right.
you
My
want to be
kid.
with the baby.
Right.
It's like important, especially for a man. It's different because women, they're gonna have that time. Babies
Right.
naturally cling to them. They want to, but we want to, like, especially with our first kid. First
Yeah.
kid is important.
Well, one of the things that Sam was just saying before you got here is that like the mother and the kid, whatever that's a boy or girl, are so connected because the whole they grew inside them, right? So there's this like visceral, natural just connection where we're the outsiders,
Exactly.
right?
They have
we
to
gotta,
learn us.
We
Yep.
need to we got to build our rep with them.
Yep.
But so I think that's great. So your advice is essentially find that balance. One of the things that I want to I'm curious if you agree or disagree, and it's fine if you do. So early on in my career, because I started adapting when I was 17. I'm going to be 31.
Whoa.
Yes, I started early, and so when I was going, door knocking, doing everything in the beginning, in the early days, one of the biggest things that I learned, because I was so I've been with my wife now for almost 8 years, and we when we first started dating, I remember I was not trying to get any relationships and stuff, because my last one wound up ending due to I was never around, just working, grinding, all over the place. And so when I met her, I was a little bit more established, but again, still grinding my face off. And I never saw her. Like we started dating. I essentially asked her to marry me under the first year, and we both. She has two entrepreneur parents, and so she got my vibe and she supported my vibe, which I loved.
Nice.
And the one thing that I went around, and I always like to ask people's advice, even since I was a kid, because I never had a mentor. Like my dad wasn't a business owner, my mom wasn't. Like they both were normal 9-to-5ers. So when I was looking for the source of motivation to keep going, or how do I get my work life balance in, because I'm running a business and also trying to have fun and live my own life and be with my fiance. And I think one of the things that I learned, I went and interviewed a lot of my really rich clients at the time, and I was like, how do I find a balance? Like, you're not. And I got almost all of them told me, you're not. And finally, this is years later from that point when I was already trying this research phase out. I hired a business coach who's still my coach today, my executive coach, and I told him, and he was like, why the fuck are you letting these people tell you how you can live your life and not? Just because they can't find a balance doesn't mean you can't find a balance. And I was like, you know what? I agree, because I need to be I like that. I like big energy. He's like, no, you're gonna figure it out. Maybe they're not making the time to figure it out. So what I started to do, COVID happens now, right? Mm-hmm. So COVID happens, and I go from flying here, going here, driving there, all over the place, right? Waking up at 5 a.m., going home at midnight, most nights, most days. And when I'm home with my wife, I was always like this the whole time, right? Because I'm always answering this, answering that, 2 phones. And so COVID happens, and it's the first time in over a decade that I'm not moving every day out of the house.
Yeah.
I never spent that much time with my wife, never spent that much time home. And what it taught me, though, and this is the only thing I want to say to people listening, and also just want to get your thoughts on this, because I want to apply this for the kid thing, is I looked at it more of a harmony than a balance. Because when I think of a balance, right, which way are you eventually going to topple over, right? Because a balance is never always going to stay balanced. That's why when you look at even a Libra, I'm a Libra, right? The balance scale is like this, right? It's not like this. It's always which way is tipping, right? Because it's never balanced. So what I said to myself was, okay, I want to try this new harmony thing with my coach, because he's like, you're going to figure this out. And so I started to, now I'm home, and I built my office. We have an office in New York, we have an office here, and so I now schedule specific time, because he said to me, you make times for things that matter. And where my head was always directed was I only put things on my calendar that had to do with money.
That's true.
So I would only do that, and I would always be motherfucking on time, looking good as fuck, but it would only have to be business related. I wouldn't schedule time for my health. I wouldn't schedule time for my wife. I wouldn't schedule time for my family. So the only thing that I started to test, right, and this is, by the way, I'm still practicing this whole thing. I've gotten better, but I've tested this harmony theory where it's I know that as a business owner, we're wearing these shirts, Adapting Social, and Green Source. And with wearing the shirt, the buck stops, and it starts with us and stops with us, right? So no matter what's going on in this business, it's our fault. If it's crushing it, great. If it's doing bad, it's on the coaches. And so I started to look at it if I'm not seeing my family, like my wife especially, I realized that when I was working from home, spending more time with my wife, seeing my family more, my mom and my dad and shit, and my brothers and sisters, I performed so much better because I was happier.
That's true.
And so what I started to do was I said, damn, I'm only scheduling time for business opportunities when it's actually, because business can be a vacuum of energy and time.
Yes, it is.
Right? So I said to myself, I was like, you know what? All right, I'm going to start scheduling shit, and it's uninterrupted, because this is what recharges my batteries. And that's what I realized. I said, my batteries are always, I'm always like, oh yeah, let's go, let's hustle, because I've always been that way my whole life. I don't need sleep. And then COVID happened. I'm like, I fucking need sleep.
Yeah. COVID happened for a reason, man.
It did.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's sad.
It is. Yeah, there's a lot of, yeah.
But everybody needed to chill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, honestly, that harmony is, I don't know why I've never thought of that. That's crazy. Like, I just scheduled days for my family.
Yeah.
Like, if I have an off day, Sunday, Monday. Right. Sunday, I can only be available during the half the day, and Monday, I'm going to get you after school.
Right.
That's, my complete day. It's my once a day with my kids for the week.
Yep.
Half really. But what you said makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
It's just...
It recharges, and I think that's the one thing that I noticed, and that's why I like to ask this. I was actually, for people listening, I was asking Tony before the podcast started about this. Like, obviously, you have two, beautiful kids, and so I have a kid on the way. And, for me, it's like that harmony now means more than ever because, like, growing up, me and my dad had challenges. He had alcohol problems. And I had to step up as, like, the man of the house because I'm the oldest of 5. Mm-hmm. So I always, when I was 11 years old or 12 years old when I had to step up, at that point in time as a kid, I remember being like, I need to be a good father. Yeah. When I finally get this opportunity to do this. So it's just so crazy how, like, these things all come together.
That's funny. My dad inspired me to be a great father in the same way too.
It was,
I mean, not drinking, deadbeat, but I have 5 siblings too, but we're all of different moms. Like I have basically, I speak with 2 of my siblings out of 5. Like and that's it's just because we were just always kind of so separate. So I waited late. I had my first kid at 30.
Right. Yeah. Me too.
And me and my wife were together. We've been together 15 years.
Wow.
So it wasn't for a lack of opportunity. It was just, hey, wait. I want to be sure that I'm mentally, financially stable. Because it seemed like you. I've been on the grind. It's from the DJ to, I own ATMs as well.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. We did, lawn. We did all sorts of sound systems for cars. Any opportunity I could, if I can make a day, all right, I'm going to rent a space for one day, and this is what we're going to do for that day.
Yeah.
And if I can't do it, then I'm going to hire somebody and take a little cut. Like, that's okay with me.
Yeah.
I've been thinking that way so long. And same thing, my dad, the relationship with my dad was so shaky. I didn't have that relationship with my siblings, and I wanted to be sure that I waited.
Right.
Until me, my wife, my family, even to say, like, be married, because that's not something that's, practiced like it used to.
It's different.
Yeah, marriage is
so different.
It's just like a formality now. Like, I wanted to be sure that if I get married and have kids, that I'm gonna have the time to invest in the marriage and the kids, which was a thing for me. Yeah,
and listen, it's so interesting, man. And Tony, I think what's crazy is, like, so growing up, I remember thinking, a lot of my friends' parents, that I've seen around me growing up had some pretty stable homes, parents at all the soccer games or sports games for them. Like, they're always there for them. And I love my parents, I love my dad, even though whatever happened. But, like, I think one of the biggest things for me is recognizing how, that whole scenario, which at some points looked at like, wow, like, this was, kind of like my, what I felt was like my demise as a kid. Like, oh my God, this is going on with my dad and my mom or whatever. This is going on here. And it propelled me forward. It made me get hard quick, early. Same with you. You're a grinder because of, how you grew up, how I grew up. But, like, this is most entrepreneurs. And that's why, honestly, I got into this space. Because, like, I love working with people who just are grinding and are out there making moves because they, wanna not only live the life they want to live, support their family, do the things that they want to do, but, entrepreneurs are the ones that, innovate and change the world, right?
I enjoy working. I tell people that all the time.
Yeah.
It's just I have to work for me.
Right.
I'm sorry, like I'm a awesome CEO, but I'm a horrible employee. Mm-hmm. If I don't agree with your vision or whatever it is you got going,
can't do it.
I can't.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah. I have a few friends that started out as employees. They were horrible employees. They were so over opinionated. I'm like, but if you think you can do all, then why haven't you done it? Why didn't you start your own company? He's like, well, give me 10,000 and I'll do it. I'm like, all right, do it.
Yeah.
Did it. smashed it, nailed it,
Right.
killed it.
Good.
Still killing it to this day.
Good.
Shouts out to Roscoe.
Yeah, Roscoe. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So where do you see Green Source in the next 5 to 10 years? You want to open up a bunch of these like all over Florida, national, like what? I mean, obviously in applicable states, but where do you see the future for this next 5, 10?
Long term, I want to be that brand. I want to be the Walgreens, the Costco, there's no recognizable brand in that particular industry, which is the clinics part of it. There's recognizable dispensaries.
Right.
There are recognizable, events. They have, 420 events and so forth, but there's no recognizable doctors. There's corporate doctors that have multiple locations, but even those aren't the go-to. Those aren't, no one can say, like, if you just randomly stop somebody, you see smoking pot, hey, did you have a medical card? No. Do you know where to get one? No.
But you can get one? What?
Exactly.
They don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I know there's a lot of work to do, but if we do the work properly, like, we can be that. We could establish that brand. I love that. And the difference, like I said, that I really want to focus on as much as building the brand is building the community, and I feel like that's what's going to separate.
And it's it's such a good. I feel like it's such a great community. Anytime I've been around people, even who I don't know.
Stoners are the best friends. They make friends with anyone. You can be friends with someone you don't even know they're a stoner. Just like, hey, oh, I knew I liked you.
Some of the what's crazy though too. When I look at almost all of the successful people, even when some people like, and I mean like locally, like that are super successful, like that run real big companies, bro, biggest potheads, and nobody would know. Like, but when you're chilling at their house with them, hanging out, that's it's like so many people you just don't know, So, all right, so we're getting towards the end here, right? So I got 2 deep questions. I'm gonna say I got a mild sauce, and then I got a real spicy one, real hard one. Which one do you want to start with first?
Hard.
I love it. Not one entrepreneur has gone soft first. Yeah, I love this. I've been asking this question for like a year. Not one person goes, give me the easy one first. Not one. No. All right, that's why I love entrepreneurs. Okay, so we'll go with the tough one first. Okay, so a lot of times when it comes to building legacy, right? Most even entrepreneurs, normal people, we think like from where our feet are today to the future, right? And we're thinking forward. So in this little exercise we're about to do, we're going to reverse engineer that process, right? So we're going to think about life differently. We're going to think about life, we're at the end of the road for you, right? And who did you become, right? Based on who you said that you wanted to be, right? And the only thing that outlives anybody on this planet, right, is in terms of legacy, is your gravestone, right? Okay. It's the only thing that's going to surpass all of your kids, their kids, their kids. So if they ever want to come see great-great-great-grandpa, right, or great-great-uncle, right, they're going to come look at the stone. What is that stone, if you were writing it here today based on the man that you want to become on this planet, and leave that legacy, what would that stone read if you were to write that today?
I love that question. It's something I thought about for years and years. It's, as an entrepreneur, finding your purpose is kind of an interesting journey. Mm-hmm. Finding out if you are focused on the financial part of it, is your end goal being rich, or is there something deeper? Right. And like I said earlier, I just like to work. Right. But it's what exactly I'm working for. Right. I'm so passionate in everything that I put my hands on. I'm a perfectionist. Right. My weakness is not being able to expand my team and being so hands-on that I could probably do more if I would trust more and just get more done. Right. As for your question, I feel like personally I have a purpose of being here. Yep. I've been gifted with the ability to be successful in most endeavors, just with no college, minimum college. We DJ'd in college. But I realize my talents, and I have a talent for business, and I can't say exactly what the end of the quote will be, but it would definitely be like, here lies Tony. Yep. he started something.
Right.
And whatever that something is, that I don't think it's grain source, I don't think it's entertainment, but I think that my experience through all of those is going to help me figure out what my SpaceX, what my, innovative thing will be. And I'm excited to figure out exactly what that end of that quote is. But I'm pretty sure that I'm good for something.
I like that.
Something special.
Right. So I like it. I like to use the SpaceX reference.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're philanthropic side.
Basically.
Yeah.
Something that I believe in, that I can back 100% and not only feel good about it, but pass it down.
Right.
Forever.
Right. I love that. The mild one now. So thank you for participating in that. Appreciate that. The mild one is, so when I first started, adapting, and I was going, again, I didn't have anybody, to really motivate me around me. Like I said earlier, I didn't have any, like, mentors that own businesses or whatever that can direct me. And just for some insight for you, so like I initially was doing that because my parents were going to lose their house. So my dad came to me, like, manned me up and was like, listen, right now I'm laid off. I got bills adding up, and it's not looking good. And I was like, what can I do? And he's like, nothing. And I was like, well, so I started giving him some of my money I was making at, like, these little jobs I was doing and shit. But it wasn't making a big enough dent. And so that's when I started Googling, like, how I can make, like, X amount of dollars. So, being, whatever, like, what job will pay me this with no
Experience and all that.
no experience, no college degree.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in high school. So I'm, like, looking it up. I found, freelance website designers make X. And I was like, interesting. So I just started teaching myself how to, build websites and shit. But full circle point being is, like, it was so tough because, at that young age, it's so easy to be discouraged, especially when you don't have somebody mentoring you. So I said to myself, I want to find a quote that's going to just fucking amp me up when I'm, like, in these moments of, like, feeling like shit and, like, doubt. And so I found this quote that read, live a few years of your life like most people won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. And what that meant to me in that moment was, okay, so I have to struggle before, I'm going to, get some oxygen. And so I went, and every time, and, like, that supercharged me. And I taped it to my parents' house at the ceiling. So when I woke up every day, I looked at first thing I saw, and I popped it in my bathroom too. And funny enough, my wife actually recently, we've moved a lot. I'm like a fucking gypsy. I like moving like every 2 years, bro. I get bored of my setting. Man. So in a bunch of our move, in, like, probably our second move or third move, I couldn't find that thing. But I had that specific one that I brought with me since I was 17 everywhere. And my COO actually painted that thing for me over there. It reads it. But long story short, one day I came home and she found it and she had it in my closet. So now every day I see it again. So anyway, so for you, is there anything like that for you that you've heard over the years, even if it's a Tony original?
Yes. My most inspirational quote, two of them. One is from Buddha.
Okay.
It says, you have to be willing to sacrifice everything to gain just one thing. If you're not willing to go all or nothing, you mostly won't meet your goal. You may have to settle.
Right.
That's my mantra that I posted on my wall through everything. Like you said, it was hard being, I was young when I made my first set of money, my first successful business. The business lasted about 2 years. Then the government intervened and, reminded us that we were in the islands.
Right.
And I had to learn the hard way through a lot of my experiences. At a few points in my life, I was discouraged. That's why I said I don't make a great employee.
Right.
I was discouraged enough to try and get a regular job.
Right.
And it was great being so miserable. It was great because that was the wake-up call you need.
Yeah.
Sometimes with no help and having all the weight of a company or on your shoulders.
Right.
If you don't find that inspiration, it's depressing.
Totally.
So you're not only everything depends on you, but you have other people that are depending on you.
Correct.
So it's a difference when you have that kind of responsibility.
Yeah.
So I would say definitely.
I love that one.
Yeah. Be willing to lose it all.
Yeah.
And also just keep pushing.
Yeah. I had this one of my mentors that was a client of mine years back. He was a super successful like telecom guy back in the day, like early, like when like they were just like making cell phones. Like this guy was like in his like when I met him, which was like, oh my God, like 6 years ago, he was like 89 or 90, and he was still kicking, right? And dude, this guy like had all these super successful businesses, like had contracts at AT&T for $100 million, like literally like that type of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget the one thing he said to me. He gave me a book, Think and Grow Rich, by Napoleon Hill. Anybody ever wants to read that? It's a solid book, mindset, everything. Just like in terms of winning, and attaining the right connections, winning the influence of people and all this good stuff is in there. But it's mainly up here, that book. And anyway, so it was written in 1930, 1920, and he gave me the manuscript that he had for this book. It's one of the most famous like self-help books on the planet.
Wow. Okay.
That he had. And so anyway, he said to me, the one thing I could tell you that, I asked him, I was like, if you gave me one piece of advice, what would it be? And he gave me two pieces. He said, one, he said, don't ever, and he said it probably for like 10 minutes, ever give up. He said, because that's the only way you fail, is if you give up. It's the only way. Which I was already in that mindset, but he even supercharged me there. And the second thing he gave me applies to parenthood, which was, he said, because obviously he was very successful financially, and all his kids, trust fund kids and shit, and worked for him a little bit and whatever. And he said the second thing I would tell you is, don't fucking spoil your kids. He said, because you know what? You'll have a big kid for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And I have friends to this day that are still like that. They're not. They don't take care of themselves.
They will never.
They're not getting out. They're always relying on mom and dad for X.
It's hard thinking about that.
It is.
Would you prefer? That's a crazy question. But
no,
as an entrepreneur, like you said, you have a couple of friends that basically have that. I call it the always out option.
Yep.
Mom and dad.
Yep.
For someone that didn't have that option, would you think you would have appreciated it?
So I didn't. Right. So I didn't have that option. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the best thing that ever happened to me.
All right.
But in the moment, I didn't think that.
Yeah.
Right. In the moment, I fucking hated it. It was painful. It sucked. It was like, okay, my friend, their parents bought them a brand new car. I was saving up every freaking nickel and dime I could make, to buy a first car. And again, more power to it. Parents are gonna parent their own way. There's nothing wrong with whatever. Like, there's no book, right? Mm-hmm. So if whoever those parents did for whatever, that's no problem. Do what you got to do. But I think one of the biggest things is that, like, I really, when he said that to me, I was like, wow, it really hit me. And that was way before I thought about having kids yet.
Kids, yeah.
But
important.
Yeah. And for me, that was like powerful only because I saw two sides of the coin. And he grew up poor. So he was like, I grew up and I wanted my kids to have that mentality, but you love your kids, you want them to have everything you never had. And in the process, there's a saying, and he didn't say this, I heard this and it resonates to this, but it's, a lot of times, people who are going through the shit, right? Like, let's use an example. The way that it was phrased was like, I forget the start of it, but essentially it's like, guys who come from nothing, right, and then build up, who go through hard times, eventually create easy times, which make weak men and weak women, because they're grinding their ass off, and then they're just giving everything. Yep. But they don't know the want and need for shit. That's like how we grew up, so to speak, So that's where it's like the balance of that, like applying that to, when kids are out there in the world and all that shit. So that's
some food for thought. I like that. Thank you for that.
No, absolutely, bro. Yeah. And so, dude, number one, I'm so grateful for you being here. Again, you took the time to get out here. I'm gonna take my
2-hour
nap.
2-hour drive back to the airport.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
No, you'll. I think you'll be good though, because you were sitting in traffic because people are coming down to the beach that way. You're going north, where nobody's going north right now.
Okay.
I think maximum you should be 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
If we're lucky.
We'll
What time?
see. We'll see.
What time we got?
4:16.
All right. So as we wrap up here, dude, again, thank you for your time, bro. I appreciate you.
Yes,
For
sir.
people watching this, they're like, how can I engage with, Green Source? How can I engage with, Tony? Please plug yourself, website, social, everything.
Green Source FL on all social medias, Facebook, Instagram. Actually, not Facebook. Instagram, LinkedIn, Green Source FL. Or check out our website, www.greensourcefl.com. Anybody in Orlando, local, you're interested in getting your MMJ cards, come on through. Tell us that you heard us on Adapting Social, and we will give you 20% off.
Oof. I'm breaking barriers. Powered by
Breaking
Adapting.
barriers. Yep, there we go. There we go.
But thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.